The information in this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Consult your healthcare provider for proper care regarding your specific situation.
Welcome to Rattle Nurses, the podcast that's here to shake things up when it comes to pregnancy, breastfeeding, and postpartum care. Hosted by two experienced nurses, we're bringing you real talk, expert advice, and a whole lot of laughs as we navigate the wild world of newborn care.
Whether you're a first-time parent or adding another little one to the mix, we've got the tips, stories, and answers you need to make this journey a little easier and a lot more fun. So grab your coffee, even if it's cold, get comfy, and let's dive in.
Welcome back. Happy Wednesday again. I'm Sarah.
I'm Delena.
And you guys remember Karrie? We had her a couple episodes.
Thanks for having me back. Thanks for having me back.
Yay, we're here.
Yeah.
You sat right back down. Good job. Yay. Okay. This is going to be kind of a dark episode, so I'm going to start it out with a joke. So, why don't eggs tell jokes to each other? Because they crack each other up. A yolk. Okay. That's where we need the rim shot thing.
Yes, exactly. We need some sound effects.
I know we do. You had one.
I did. So a friend asked me if, she's 40, so getting up there, should I have babies after 40?
And she said?
What?
What did you say?
No, I think 40 babies is enough.
40 babies?
No. I think we're good.
Please stop.
Please stop.
Your uterus
I was
is
going to say
sad.
your uterus is going to fall right out. I quit. Okay. Do you want to do names or no? The names without context?
We can do a couple.
Do a couple
Yeah,
names that would be good names if they weren't actually things.
Okay.
Okay.
Give it to
See
me.
what pile I got.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, you have to notice the spelling on this one. There's a varietal spelling.
Calorie.
Calori. Yeah.
Also, it could be
Calorie.
Kallory. Something along those lines. Calorie.
Yes.
Calorie.
I could totally see
How are you doing,
Calori
Calori?
being a name, though.
But if you just did the other enunciation,
Yeah.
calorie. Callie. Cal.
Callie.
Cal.
I do like that.
I do like Callie, too.
It's pretty. And I love calories.
I know. It's my favorite thing.
Especially the fatty ones. They're so delicious.
All right, here's another one. Oh, I gotta do this one's my favorite. It's so my favorite.
Oh, yes. I
Areola,
almost wrote
always.
that down.
Areola, guys. Areola. Ari. Lola.
Does she just
Ola?
have a personality where people just want to latch onto
Or
her?
pincher? It's turned into a different episode.
Sorry.
Okay.
Maybe I do crack myself up. Okay.
We eggs.
We eggs. For sure.
Rotten. Insignia.
Insignia.
That one's a strong one.
It
is.
Right.
That's a leader.
Insignia, that is.
Maybe a cult leader, but
Oh.
a leader.
We just went to cult. Why is Insignia a cult leader?
Wow.
I know.
I mean, it takes a strong personality, right?
We said it was
Yes.
a dark episode.
I know. It goes along.
Here's a very pretty one.
Fascia, yes. Honest, if I didn't know what fascia was. Yeah. Like Sasha,
Yes.
Tasha.
Sasha.
Basha.
Oh my God, they're triplets again. Sasha, Tasha, and Fasha. Poor Fasha.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
right.
Okay.
Okay, guys, we are going to talk about some, like I said, really detrimental things. We're going to talk about safe sleep, SIDS, shaken baby, purple crying. So we're going to touch on these topics. There's a lot to delve into with these. So please always, if there's something going on with your baby, let me preface by saying if there's something going on with your baby, please consult your healthcare provider, your pediatrician, because of course we're not here to diagnose. We're just here to give you information. So, and things that you may experience or may expect. So, you can find those. Again, we're going to post some information on some resources in our description that you can click on, but please contact your healthcare provider for any of these concerns. Okay.
So we'll start with what is called the period of purple crying. That probably doesn't sound like a familiar term to most of you, but it is something that we've been trained on, something that we go over teaching our moms before they leave the hospital, because it's something that you really need to anticipate and expect to happen, and just kind of prepare yourself mentally for that and know that it's normal.
It's not touched on a lot. And so I really try to make a big point of it in my discharge teachings. But yeah, it's something that, like, we want to bring up because it does take a detrimental toll on your mental health as well. So
Absolutely.
And I feel like most moms, when they actually start experiencing what is the period of purple crying, that they think that it's colic. That their stomachs are upset and they can't tolerate, their feedings well, and they're not throwing up or anything. They're just crying.
So
Parents
they're
very
sitting there
uncomfortable.
questioning, and these moms are sitting there questioning like their entire existence, everything they're doing wrong, and they think it's all on them, but really it's just a phase. Okay.
So,
And the great thing about phases is
They
that
end.
they end.
yay.
Yes.
It is a period.
I was going to say
of time.
there is that when we look up purple crying, the end, there's a purple and end, and there's a period at the end.
Yes.
It says we have the period because there is an end to it, which I think
Yes.
that's a pretty good point. But
So there's a light at the end of the
Yes.
tunnel. You
Yep.
will get through it. Typically, this period of purple crying starts at around 2 weeks of age sometimes, but it usually hits its peak around month 2.
And remember, every baby is different. So while, maybe your first baby, day 14, they started this period, baby number 2 or baby number 3, it may not hit at exactly that same time because every baby is different.
yes.
Absolutely.
And I would like to say that also purple, all capitalized, it's not touching on the color of the baby for any reason. These are just,
it's an acronym.
so it's an acronym. So just like Delena was saying, their peak of their crying, peak of crying at 2 months, just depending, 2 months of age.
Okay.
Okay.
And the U in purple is for unexpected. You can't find any rhyme or reason. Your baby's just crying and screaming.
No reason. Nothing happened. Just
That
yelling.
really leads into R, which is resisting soothing. So like, it does not matter what you do, they will just cry.
You can shush, you can swaddle, you can sway, you can do all your S's, you can, all the soothing mechanisms, and they just will cry right through it. And then, and that's when moms
It might
are
make
like,
it better.
but
But
they're still
it's-
gonna, sometimes, and this is why people think like they might be colicky, because they have like a painful facial expression. Like they may be arching their backs and like grimacing, things like that. So the second P in the purple is pain-like expression.
And then the L is for long lasting. This can go on for many hours. And I feel like I've read that it typically, a lot of babies, it will start like late afternoon and go into the evening.
The night, the middle of the night. Those times where you want to sleep and your baby's just crying away.
That's actually what the E stands for, is evening, because it is
Oh, yep.
most
There we go.
common
Yep.
in the evening time. And one of the worst things about this is often happening right when mom's reinforcements have gone home.
Yes.
You've kind of
Yes.
settled into your
Motherhood.
new normal.
Yes.
And you're like, man, I've really got this. And you do, Mom. You do have this.
This is
okay.
true. Yep.
But this is not uncommon, and it's nothing that you did wrong, or it's not that your baby doesn't love you. We hear that a lot.
Yes, we do.
That, well, my
Baby
baby
doesn't like
love
me. Yeah.
They do. They love you very much, but this is their way of communicating. They don't have other means of communication at this point.
Is there like a cause? I mean, I don't think I've read any, like, the cause to the purple crying.
So I think there's like some varying studies out there. A lot of it is just your babies are growing.
Yeah.
Think about, like when you were younger in elementary school, if you hit a growth spurt, I know my knees always
Everything hurt.
Yes. And you have to think about just the physical change that happens in a baby.
And so rapidly.
In these first few months of life, and they don't have words. So this is just one of the ways that they can communicate. And it's a very effective form of communication for them as well.
So when our babies reach this period of purple crying phase, there's an end to it, period. This is when a lot of our families, moms, parents, dads, caregivers, start becoming very, very frustrated. They become very frustrated. They become frustrated with themselves. There's a lack of sleep. So many things. They're exhausted. They just can't seem to get it under control. And this is when a lot of injury can occur, especially in the form of shaken baby syndrome. So yes, this is a topic we're covering because it is very important to learn these things so you're not questioning your entire existence, your parenting, your child. This is something that you can learn. So shaken baby syndrome, it's basically the result of forcefully shaking your child. This is not something that's caused by light jogging or playing or just gentle bouncing. No, this is shaken baby syndrome happens when you or the parent becomes so frustrated and aggressive that they lose their mind and shake baby. And that when that happens, what happens is baby's brain is still very flexible. Everything's in there. So what happens is the brain is shaken so hard that it reverberates inside the skull, causing significant damage.
So we actually, honestly, like in the pediatric space, don't always refer to it as shaken baby syndrome anymore. We call it abusive head trauma because
what it is.
Syndrome implies a checklist.
True.
And that abusive head trauma can actually happen outside of the presence of the rest of that checklist of shaken baby syndrome. So that may be something that you hear your pediatrician talk about instead of shaken baby syndrome. They may talk about abusive head trauma. And one thing that I always want to stress to parents is we know that your intention is not to harm your baby, but you are the adult in the situation. And so you have to prepare yourself for these situations. You as an adult have coping mechanisms. And if you have a partner, this is where your partnership really starts to get tested.
Yes.
You have to rely on each other. So make sure you set up these mechanisms in place so that when it gets to this point, if you are feeling overwhelmed, you can take that step back safely so that your baby stays safe, you stay safe, and no one gets harmed in this situation.
It is it is a lapse in judgment. It is.
When your emotions just take over. Yes. And I've seen the 10-10-10 rule mentioned. I don't know if y'all have seen that. But if you can find a safe place to put the baby, such as a crib, lay him down in there 10 minutes, walk 10 feet away from that baby. Give yourself a little bit of distance and find somebody supportive that you can talk to, whether in person or by phone, for 10 minutes.
Yes, that's a good
Just
one.
to calm yourself down.
That's actually a great point that I always bring up with safe sleep. This is one of the reasons why it's so important to have that safe sleep, that space that is designed only for baby to be in. because then if you have that safe sleep area, then you have a space that you can set them in, so that way you can regulate your emotions and take that time. And so you can come back to baby ready to handle the situation.
Yes.
You know, I will touch on that for sure when I'm doing my discharge teaching. Like, of course, I'll talk about like mental health, things like that, emotional changes, but also when it comes to this, I always tell my parents or my families, it is okay to put baby in a safe place and walk away.
Absolutely.
Even if you're helicoptering, and if you have to, if you want to get like a portable monitor and turn the volume off and then take it outside, take a walk outside. If baby's in a safe spot, they can cry for a minute. They'll be fine. But sometimes just separating yourself, getting it together, you know, regrouping, giving yourself a few minutes, talking to someone, whatever you need to do, throwing a cup at a wall, whatever you have to do. Just getting away for a few minutes and gathering.
And this, again, is something that you should be talking to your pediatrician about.
Yes.
Because there are, you know, those extremely random one-off situations where it may not be great for a baby to cry, but that is going to be something that you have already discussed with your pediatrician beforehand, so that way you can maybe have a different mechanism in place. Or like a second caregiver, someone that you trust that can come in and just give you that separation break. And honestly, sometimes like maybe something like loop earplugs, or they did not pay me for that. Loop, if you want to pay me. But, you know, something to help with that auditory processing, because that is one of the things that gets parents so overwhelmed. And also, I know so many people say, it's not going to be me. It's not going to be me. But you have to understand, in that postpartum phase,
your emotions are not normal emotions.
Are not necessarily yourself at this point. Your partner may be so exhausted that they are not necessarily themselves. So while, yes, when you are fully well rested, your hormones are regulated and balanced, you have not had necessarily a baby attached to your breast for the last 24 hours straight. You know, you have full autonomy of your own body. Your thinking is going to be different than when you're in this situation. So it's part of your job as a parent and as a caregiver to take this time to prepare for that situation in the future.
Arm yourself for knowledge. And remember, when we talked about postpartum recovery, it still takes a good 6 months for emotions, everything. Your body's recovering, your mental health is recovering. It still takes a good long while. So this purple crying period is smack dab in the middle of that. You're still recovering. You're still going through changes. Smack dab in the middle of that. So keep that in mind as well. Like, this is not, it's not abnormal. Okay. So, the purple crying period, you are right in the middle of your hormonal changes. So, you say you've dropped your kiddo off, your infant off you have to go back to work. You've got things to do. You're running an errand. You dropped your kiddo off in the presence of another caregiver or babysitter, what have you, and you pick them up. You don't know what was happening. You weren't there, but your kiddo starts to act a little bit differently than usual. What are some symptoms that are present if your baby has suffered abusive head trauma?
So honestly, you hit the nail on the head. Your baby is different. Okay. So you, as the mom or the primary caregiver, you know that baby best. So if you are noticing even subtle changes that you can't necessarily put your finger on it, but you're concerned, please take your baby in.
Yes.
And when I say in, I mean to an emergency department. Yes. Because this is not something that you want to wait until the pediatrician office opens for. This is not something that an urgent care is prepared to take. Those places will tell you, if you have a concern, go straight to the emergency room.
Correct. Okay.
But some big things are going to be lethargy. Your baby is not alert anymore. It seems like they're sleeping all the time. You can't rouse them.
Yeah.
They're not eating well. You may have incessant crying, which I know we're talking about
hand in hand, yeah.
period of purple, so it's kind of hard, what is this crying?
To differentiate.
Yeah, what is
for, like, are they hungry? Do they have a dirty diaper? Is this just period of purple crying? Is this my baby is injured? So, and that is going to come into, you're going to start to know your baby's cries. They will, they don't necessarily have, this is the feeding cry and this is the diaper cry, but you're going to notice different things about your baby and their mechanisms, their behaviors when they're crying that you're going to pick up on.
Tones, inflections,
yes,
things like that.
What is going on? Babies have soft spots on their head called fontanelles. So there's one right here. Y'all talked about how baby skulls are not fully formed when they come out, that they have sutures. And so their skull is basically a series of plates, and that's so that they can move together and exit the vaginal canal.
Yes.
So all babies are born with this little fontanelle at the top of their forehead.
It's a self-destruct button.
I mean, yes, yeah. Please don't play with it, okay? This is, it's a spot that we use to really assess your baby. We can assess things like hydration status. So if we notice a divot right there, that means your baby is not hydrated very well. So, maybe not necessarily getting enough breast milk. We talked about,
like that.
I say we, y'all.
Yes.
I feel like I was there when I was watching it. But, y'all talked about, being worried about adequate breast milk intake whenever you're breastfeeding. And that is one of the ways that we can tell whether or not the baby is hydrated. The other thing that we can see is this is not like a turkey timer. Like, it doesn't pop out when the baby is ready. If it's bulging, then we know that there is some sort of swelling or extra fluid going on in the skull. And you may notice that with an abusive head trauma injury.
I think they can also have like seizures, obviously. Anytime your baby's having a seizure, please take it to the emergency room.
Absolutely.
But seizures, another sign, vomiting.
Absolutely, yeah.
That can happen, like, even in adults with brain bleeds, significant brain injuries, vomiting.
Concussions, yeah.
Yeah.
Any kind of neurological symptom, we're going to be concerned. The other thing is, whenever you come to an emergency room, please don't feel like, I'm just, something is wrong and I don't feel comfortable with it. Don't feel embarrassed about that.
No.
Okay? Please don't ever feel embarrassed about that. Because as pediatric nurses in the ER, one of the things that they learn is if the primary caregiver tells you the baby is sick, the baby is sick. If they are concerned about something enough that they have brought the baby to the ER, that's already hands down a reason that they need to be seen.
And they can't communicate. So we're all trying to vouch for them, and we're trying to vouch for you. We want to make sure your baby is okay.
You are your baby's advocate.
Yeah.
So
absolutely,
we are going to trust you when you say, hey, something's not
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So can cause traumatic brain injury. It can even cause death. So
it absolutely can.
It is something that we do not want to delay getting treatment for.
And also, if you're noticing, obviously, like bruises in places where baby normally wouldn't have bruises, fractures.
Absolutely. Baby bones are very soft, so they should not be broken.
No, that's correct. So if you're noticing fractures or what we call, like, if your baby's rib cage almost feels like what we call crepitus, which kind of feels crunchy, or
almost like Rice Krispies.
Like Rice
Yes.
Krispies.
How
like
Rice Krispies sound.
Yes, exactly.
Palpable Rice Krispies. Yes. So if you're feeling like you're changing baby and you notice something that looks different, and you're trying to touch your baby's rib cage and it feels crispy, please go to the emergency room.
Absolutely. So. And truthfully, like, I don't think there could be anything that we could say more than, if you feel like you need to go to the emergency room,
go to the
emergency room.
My husband used to do critical care transports. Well, he still does sometimes. And he said one of the parts of his job is going from either it's basically going from one level of care to a higher level of care. And so a lot of the times he would get infants who wouldn't go to sleep, and they would go to the urgent care. The urgent care would say, we need to make sure this is okay. Everything else is okay. It checks out here. Let's get baby to a higher level. Let's get baby to an emergency room. And so he'd load up the ambulance, get baby on the ambulance, put baby in the car seat. And as baby's on the road, driving, getting that nice little ambulance sway, go right to sleep. And then they would get to the ER, and the parents would feel so silly. And he'd be like, don't, this is better. Right. So go get baby checked out, and then we'll,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So, don't feel silly if you feel like something is wrong.
Yep.
Be your baby's advocate.
Go with your intuition.
Yeah, go with your intuition. Okay.
Okay.
So Karrie touched on putting a baby in a safe place for if you need to get away, step away, baby's not soothing and you need to get away for a second. We're going to talk about safe sleep. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
ABCDs.
ABCDs.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
This is a hard one because we tell you your first one is alone. Your baby should be alone in the crib or bassinet. It is so hard because they've spent all their time in their perfectly protected hot tub. And so, yes, this is a big transition for them, but it is the safest transition for them other than co-sleeping.
Yes. The B is we always want baby on his or her back. That is the safest position for baby to sleep in.
And that's not just for nighttime sleep. That is for
naps.
Sleep.
Yes.
Naps.
That is one of the things that I always harp on is safe sleep is not just nighttime sleep. Safe sleep is anytime.
Yes.
Because an unsafe sleep accident or death, injury, any of these things can happen at any point.
During a nap.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
I have known someone that lost their baby during its afternoon nap.
That's so tragic.
It really was. It was
So
very hard.
A lot of my parents get concerned that baby's on their back, they're asleep, if they spit up.
Yeah, a lot of people are concerned.
A lot of people are concerned about that, but I'd like just to point it out. If you can go online and look this up. Babies' esophaguses are lower than their tracheas. So we got the breathing tube with the trachea and the esophagus, which is the digestive tube. If babies are on their back, what's going to happen to that spit up? It's going to travel to the lowest point. It's going to go straight to the esophagus. If baby's on their tummy, that flips. Then the trachea is the lowest point. So that's the air tube. So if baby's spitting up and they're on their stomach, it's going to go straight to the air tube, and then baby can choke. So that's why we say on their back, because if they do spit up, it goes to the lowest point. So that's something to think of as well. Just because your baby's on their back doesn't mean that they're going to spit up and it's going to go into their lungs. They're just not initially shaped like us.
But you also have to think, like, babies have very big heads
big
and
noggins.
very weak necks. And if they are placed on their stomach, they can easily go face down and have a suffocation kind of event. And so not only are we battling with a spit up incident, which, let's be honest, all babies are going to have.
They're going to spit up
incident. You're then stressed about that suffocation incident as well.
Yes.
Yes, and I always tell parents you're allowed to give your baby tummy time, but they should be awake, and you should be right there with them with your eyes on them at all times.
That way, when they face plant, that big old noggin,
That's right.
move it on over. They need a little help sometimes. Okay, so we got A is alone, B is on their back, C is in the crib or bassinet with a firm mattress. Please don't put them on a soft squish pillow.
Yes, and we see that all the time.
We see that all the time.
Even at the hospital, they'll put them in the bassinets.
DACA tots are not safe sleep spaces.
I don't know what that is. Please
Yes,
tell me more.
so many people have those. Yes, I
What
know
is
a lot
that?
of people.
You don't know? Okay, so the DACA tot is, it's like an infant positioner, and it's usually a rectangle that is nice and fluffy on the edges, but has like a, I don't know, like a valley.
Where it kind of like will cradle around the baby.
So lots of people use DockATots as a sleep surface, and because they don't want their baby to roll side
around,
by side. But that's part of, being alone in the bed and not having anything loose. We don't want to use things like a DockATot or a boppy. We see, you know how there are some boppies that are just kind of like complete
square,
circles.
Yeah.
A DockATot is basically that, but rectangle.
Okay.
And DockATot is just one brand. And if you look at their instructions, I don't know if you watched the Karrie episode. I'm big on manuals.
Read the manual.
It will even say in their instructions that this is not a safe sleep space, because of the risk of a sudden infant death syndrome or a sudden unexpected infant death in that DockATot.
And also, if it's got the big squishy bumpers, we don't want that either. That's included. No floofy blankets, no stuffed animals, no squishy bumpers. They just need to be on a firm mattress alone.
No couch cushion.
No couch cushion.
Yes.
No middle of mom and dad's bed.
What about those? I've seen those and I don't know what they're called, but they are, I don't know, this may be the DockATot. I don't think it is because it's not a valley. It's just basically a spacer with, it looks flat to me, but it's basically a spacer to go in the bed next to the parents.
I think that's a DockATot.
Is that what that is?
Yeah. That if it's not, then it would be something very similar because there are devices marketed for co-sleeping, which we do not believe is the safest way to sleep with an infant. But again, we live in a society that values profit over safety.
This is true.
So if it can be sold to a desperate mother who is exhausted and hasn't had more than an hour and a half of sleep in the last 3 weeks,
It'll happen.
it will happen.
Okay. So, alone, on their back, in the crib.
Absolutely.
Yes? One more?
The D.
D.
Don't smoke around your baby.
Don't smoke around your baby. That I mean, regardless, first hand, second hand, third hand, fourth, I don't care. Don't smoke around your baby. I mean, they've got new, fresh, young lungs. This can cause respiratory distress syndrome in them. Many things. Don't smoke around your baby. That's the D.
Yep. And we can also put resources in with the when we post the videos, resources to help quit smoking. We do have those.
We do have those
with our discharge teaching that we do at the hospital as well. So
another thing, your facility, your entity may provide you with a book, and it does have lots of good information. Our book, provided by our facility, does have a little blurb about purple crying. It's not usually seen, and it does have warning boxes. Call 911 if you do feel like this is a more urgent matter. But please reference that. Like it does talk about many things that, even though this is plastered in the book, people are not aware of it. So
This is one of those things that I wish more OB-GYN offices provided during pregnancy.
Yes, they can look over it. They can.
when you have time to read your manual.
Right.
Yes.
That is one thing.
This is the manual.
It is. It is a manual. And I've actually told parents that this is a handbook of your first few weeks with the baby.
Because they read what to expect when you're expecting, but
Right.
that's not the after.
Yes.
That's not the after when you've been without sleep for several hours. You're exhausted. You're at your wit's end, and your answers are here. So
Exactly. And like I said earlier, the time to prepare is before. It's not during. Like, I can't prepare for a situation that I'm actively in.
Right.
when it's
Yeah. I need to prepare for that before that situation occurs.
So yes, this is why we want to talk and educate, and so okay, well this aligns with what's happening right now. So
Absolutely.
we will have some resources. While we can't give you the book, obviously, we do have resources that will obviously to quit smoking, but also the National Center for Shaken Baby Syndrome and the Safe Sleep Academy. We'll put those on there. That's definitely something that you can check for in our comments or our description, that you can find those links for as well. And you can read more into the American Academy of Pediatrics. The AAP always has great information, of course. So, research.
And if you have any questions, ask your pediatrician.
Yeah.
I promise you, your pediatrician would be ecstatic if you came to them with a list of questions, just prepared to like rapid fire shoot at them to gain that information.
Yes.
You know, I don't know of a single medical provider that is ever upset or put out by parents asking questions.
You know, a lot of physicians out there, like medical doctors, internists, a lot of the times when you go to the doctor, they seem a little off-put that you're asking questions. The thing about like most pediatricians that I've met, most PAs, they want to educate you.
Yes.
They have zero problem answering questions, educating. I mean, that's why I like working with our pediatricians so much, is just because they do want you to, they do want to educate you. They want you to know these things.
I feel like if they don't want to discuss that,
They're
with
in the
you,
wrong
that's
field.
Probably not the physician for you.
No.
Especially, I mean, if you're not in medicine, you should know that pediatricians are the lowest paid physicians out there.
Sad.
It is disgusting, but they are in it because they truly care.
Yes.
I've been a nurse for almost 13 years. Most of that has been in pediatrics. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, if I ever had to call a doctor in the middle of the night, it was a pediatrician that I wanted to call.
Yes.
Yes.
There have been times in my adult career that I would be nervous about.
I was just going to say the same thing. I have had PTSD from having to try to contact a physician in the middle of the night when I worked with adults on like night shifts.
Yes.
And I'd be like dreading it so hard. Even some of our OB-GYNs, I'm not going to lie. But pediatricians,
I have never had one get upset at me because
I've had one, but that's a
also-
layaway thing.
pediatrician upset is also very different than adult
Yes,
provider.
it is.
Intensivist,
It is.
upset,
I
facts.
have not had a pediatrician curse me out. I have had physicians in other specialties
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
curse me out
Yes.
without even knowing why I'm calling. So
Yeah.
that says a lot.
It does.
I feel like that might be like
I think that's half the
a
reason.
milestone of
And it
nursing.
2 or
is.
3
That's
a.m.
half the reason I stayed in this field, because I'm like, wow,
Yeah,
they don't scream at their nurses all the time.
exactly.
This is magical.
And I've had charts thrown across the nurse's station, but not by a pediatrician.
Not by a pediatrician.
Actually, not even by an, well, yeah, there was an OB. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, sometimes the OBs get us, yep.
But anyway, your pediatrician loves your baby and cares for your baby enough to make sure that you keep that baby safe and healthy.
That's
Like-
literally what they went to school for.
That is what they spent a decade of their life, if not more,
If more. Yeah.
trying to do.
So yes, if there's always, if you have any questions, concerns about your baby's health, contact your healthcare provider, contact your pediatrician.
And so I was seeing this statistic here that Sarah had gathered, talking about the rate of
SIDS.
yes,
Yes.
SIDS and sleep-related deaths.
I think this was from the American Academy of Pediatrics. I have to recall.
Around 3,400 cases annually. That is
90% of deaths within the first
Awful.
6 months. Yes.
So there are some things that you can do to prevent SIDS. It's never fully preventable, but there are some things that we can put into place to do what we can to mitigate that risk. One, always your safe sleep space and
Yes.
back to sleep.
Yes.
That is going to be number one. Every single provider will say in every single visit, on your back.
Safe sleep.
Alone.
Yeah. Back alone.
Safe sleep is so important. Room temperature is actually
Yes.
really important.
Yes. It
yes.
is.
Because
That's
babies can't thermoregulate or control their body temperature the way adults can. So making sure that your room is not too hot, but also not too cold.
And they don't need 47 big fat fluffy blankets.
They do not.
They do not. That actually overheats them because they can't like she said, they don't thermoregulate. They can't control their temperature regulation like adults can. So when we have them in clothes, in a sleep sack, in a blanket, in a thicker blanket, on a big thick blanket, they are overheated.
Yes.
And you can sometimes visibly see them sweating. They don't need all those things.
So in peds, we actually call those big fluffy blankets fever blankets.
They are fever blankets.
Because
yes, they are.
It is very common that, when we get a febrile child coming to us,
Feverish
child coming to us, they're completely wrapped up. The first thing that we're going to do
Unwrap
is we're going to take all of those
Yes.
blankets off. Because while we're not doubting that your baby has a fever, this is not helping.
Exactly.
We're going to remove the environmental source before we start going to the internal sources. Yes. Yes.
We got to do the easy things first.
Yep.
So we got to do what we can and get rid of that. Another thing you can do is have a fan on in the room. There has been, and I could get you the links for this, but we were of the school of thought that just air circulation.
Yes, I've heard about, yes.
That stimulation can actually keep baby's brain alert enough to tell it to breathe.
Yes.
Basically. Because oftentimes what happens, we think what happens is that babies get so deeply asleep that
Their
they
bodies don't
forget.
trigger that replay. Yes.
Yeah.
So actually one of the pediatricians that we work with was talking about that similar concept, but with
the
pacifier.
Absolutely.
Yes. Like,
we always recommend a passy once you've established your latch, because we don't want to
Yes.
cause that nipple confusion in those first few weeks. We don't want to make it even harder. But a passy is a really great intervention that you can do if your baby will take it, because that sucking stimulation keeps their brain alert enough
Yes.
that they're like,
And even
that
if they wake-
sucking
yeah.
makes them remember to breathe.
and even if they wake back up, they're like, oh yeah, something was there. So,
exactly.
and then they keep going. So yes, that's train of thought. I've
Yes.
heard that a couple times. There's still so many studies being done. So
Nothing
many.
is foolproof.
Correct.
But these are interventions that we can do, like I said earlier, to mitigate the risk.
Yes.
To hopefully make sure that doesn't happen.
And there are products. There are products I've seen, of course, like your Owlets and your.
Yes.
I had a parent who had a little. It wasn't the ones that connects to like the Owlet. It doesn't necessarily monitor the oxygen saturation, but it hooked right on the end of the
snoozer.
diaper. I think that's what it was called. But it hooks right on the end of the diaper, and if it's off the baby for a couple of minutes, or it doesn't sense the warmth, the movement, whatever it senses, it'll just start going off.
And these things would all be under like parental discretion. So these are things that you should discuss with your pediatrician.
Yep.
Because just like, a NICU baby who has been on oxygen monitoring
Yes.
their whole life may not necessarily go home with an oxygen monitor. These are going to be things that you're going to want to discuss with your pediatrician. Yes. And it may be right for your situation, but it may not, because again, it is a machine and machines can't be perfect.
Correct. That's very correct. And also it's another added expense. Maybe you weren't anticipating purchasing this particular item, but again, chat with your pediatrician, see if that's something that you're really needing to purchase. So.
Right. Okay.
Questions?
I don't think so. I can't think of anything with this, but I did want to, if we've covered everything with,
I think we
with
have.
that.
Yeah.
So while we've got the injury prevention expert here, have you seen anything in particular that you would like to put out there and just say, from your experience?
One, make sure you have a safe sleep space. Hands down, make sure you have a safe sleep space. 2, make sure you have an appropriate car seat and that you're using it correctly every single time. If you have a car seat that you are not able to use correctly every single time, then that is not the correct car seat for you.
Reevaluate your car seat.
There are other car seats out there. 3, vet your care providers. Okay. Please make sure that if you choose to use outside of the home childcare, make sure that you are
check references.
Check references. In the state of Texas, we have child care lookup that you can do like through the state of Texas to ensure that they are actually a licensed care provider. In my work in the trauma field, I have seen a lot of injuries occur in unlicensed child care facilities. And they could be, minor things, but they could not be minor things. So you want to make sure that you are putting your child in a situation that you trust. Okay.
Life happens. You have to do what you have to do, but use whatever resources you can to make sure you be your baby's advocate in a safe place.
Absolutely. And then use your baby products appropriately. Okay. So meaning like if you have a special baby bathtub, please don't fill that bathtub full of water. Okay.
It's not a swimming pool?
It's not a swimming pool.
Oh.
It's not. Babies should be doing like sponge baths. We don't need to be doing full submersion baths on babies, okay? They're very little. They're very slippery.
Yes, they are.
We want to make sure that we are protecting them in that way. Along those same lines, if you have a swimming pool or access to a body of water
like near the lake,
yes, make sure that you are protecting all of your windows and doors. If you have a pool, you have
that's
a
a good
fence
one.
around it.
Yes.
That's always terrified me.
Absolutely.
Oh, horrific.
Because especially as your kids get older and more mobile, they are very, very fast. Very fast. And so if you ever lose your baby, always look at water first.
They're smarter than they look, too. They can open a door. They can move a chair to open a door.
Absolutely, they can.
When they're toddlers.
I bet you've seen so much that's just heartbreaking.
We have a lake down the street from our house, and a lot of injuries.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Second, if you've lost your baby and you go immediately to the body of water, then check all the vehicles. So make sure that you are locking your vehicles when you get out of the car. And this is not just to protect your car from theft or anything like that, but you want to protect your neighborhood, your children, the kids in your neighborhood from hot car death. And oftentimes what we see...
I didn't think about that.
I have heard stories
Oh,
about
gosh.
are children gaining entry to your vehicle and then not
They
able
can't
to
get out.
exit. Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
So hot car deaths in Texas have been on the decline since COVID, which has been awesome, but they still happen. And just like we talked about with the abusive head trauma and shaken baby syndrome, these are not things that people like intend to do. People don't intend
No
to
one
leave their
anticipates
baby
this,
in their car. But this is, again, another form of preparation to make sure that your baby and in turn the babies around you are safe.
Yeah. That's a good point. I do tell my parents at Discharge, because, again, husband, paramedic, firefighter, he has ran calls where people have forgotten their babies in the car seat. You go on your nice little car ride, it's there, you got all snoozy, they fell fast asleep in the back seat. You're exhausted, you're just trying to run in and get some toilet paper or something, and you forgot your baby in the car. You're tired, it's your first baby, you've never done this before, you forgot your baby in the car, and it's 175 degrees outside because it's Texas, and things happen quickly. So
absolutely,
I always tell my families, do something, whatever you have to do, a shoe, a purse, a phone, something back in the back seat to remember.
So not just in the back seat, we want it in the back floorboard because we want to minimize projectiles in the car.
True.
So we want to try and keep them in that like low contained area of the footwell.
Good point.
I we've talked about it before. I don't have children, but I've been an aunt for a very long time, and I've taken care of my fair share of little ones. So whenever I do something outside of my normal, because that's when things like this happen, is, say maybe mom usually takes baby to daycare, but there's an early meeting or something and dad needs to do drop off. Like, dad doesn't necessarily, he doesn't intend to do harm to the baby, but we are designed to go on autopilot.
We're humans, things happen.
Yes. And so it is in those weird situations that we really need to be extra vigilant and prepare for it. So whenever I have a small baby in my car, I like to take my right shoe off because I take my left shoe off. I can drive. I promise. I am licensed. I take my left shoe off, so I have my right shoe on so I can still manage my pedals. But I put my left shoe in the floorboard behind me because while I will forget my phone and I will forget my purse, both of which I have done in the last 7 days. Okay, so that is not a reliable thing for me to think, oh, I need to grab it.
I tell them a shoe too, and they look at me like it's weird, and I'm like, you're going to step out of the car.
In my 40 years, I have not forgotten my shoes when I needed my shoes.
Right.
Okay.
Right. It's kind of hard too.
That is so ingrained into me. And when I get out of the car,
I've forgotten my shoes when I needed my shoes.
Okay, well, we just have.
I don't like shoes.
Which is fair, okay? But when I get out of the car, I get out left foot first. So when that bare foot hits the concrete, I think, oh, wait, that's not right. Where's my shoe at? So I go looking for my shoe, and there's baby back there.
Oh, yeah, I got to get this.
It's just that, like, another, safeguard in place to make sure I protect that baby.
I like to say, too, a lot of them, you're like, I won't forget my baby. I won't forget my baby. No, I've been preparing this. I had, it took me a long time to get pregnant. I won't forget my baby. That's not true. It is normal to err as to human and to be human. And you're tired and you're going through a lot of things. You're exhausted. You forget. And it's normal. It's normal to forget, and it's normal to be exhausted. So that's why we suggest these precautionary steps.
And then 2 other big ones for me are, when you have your baby in the car seat, I so many times see a big blanket or a seat cover draped over the car seat.
Absolutely.
That doesn't allow for airflow. And so...
Or for when they're breastfeeding and they cover them up.
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
And, in some climates that may be okay, temperature-wise, but you also have to think about circulation and getting fresh air in and close to the baby to make sure that we're not re-inhaling CO2 or carbon dioxide, what we exhale. So if you choose to use a car seat cover, please be mindful of the weather. Make sure that your baby is not getting too hot in that car seat or in that stroller, because this can happen in a stroller as well. And make sure that they're getting good circulation and they're not getting overheated in that car seat or stroller or baby carrier, whatever it may be. Do what you can to protect them from that. And then I had another thing and I forgot it. Let me think. Go fast. Okay.
I guess that comes with baby wearing too. When you have a 100-degree thing and it's 100 degrees outside and you're 100 degrees all together, take them out once in a while. Give them a little air
out.
I mean, because you'll even see as you get a baby out, and again, we are in a very, very hot climate. When you get that baby out of the seat, you can feel their back.
Their
is
sweat.
Just so
their sweat.
And it is miserable, I know, but again, that is not a reason to forward face your baby too soon. There are things that you can do to help with airflow into the back seat. There's things you can Google a Noggle. That's a device that you can use in your car to help bring air to the back seat if you don't have those vents in the back to help with
Never
the baby.
heard of that.
I know. I think most people have vents now.
Yeah.
At least the ones that. Yeah.
Well, I just now got grown up enough to get a car that had vents in the back.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
I know, right?
Welcome to 2025.
Only took me forever.
What year was your other car?
It was a 2016. My last car was a 2016.
Okay, my other one
Really?
before this one was a 2006, and I had air vents.
Yep.
What
and
happened?
Wow.
I did not have vents in the back of my car. That's actually one of the reasons why I bought the specific car I have, because I made sure that there were
air
vents
vents
in the back.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. I didn't know anything that
I know,
was...
right? It is nuts.
Wow. I bet your nieces and nephews like this car a lot better.
Very much. There is airflow. No one gets overheated. Everyone stays cool.
Yay.
What was I going to
I was trying to
say?
just talk, and
I
hopefully it'll...
know.
So we got the circulation, we got the safe sleep. It ran out.
So we were talking about injury prevention, and I was going through my mechanisms of... Oh! I remembered. Okay. So if you remember the car seat episode, we talked about car seats on the shopping cart.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I also want to talk about containment devices on top of things like a countertop or a coffee table or a kitchen table. Please be mindful that that is not designed to be on those surfaces. Those are supposed to be on ground level. Because if you think about it, as your baby is getting older and they're starting to develop trunk control, they're moving around, and even like before they have trunk control, they just kind of like flop over. They can fall. I have seen injuries from children falling off of a countertop still in their containment device, whatever it may be.
Whoa.
So, like the little bumbos.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm
Little
thinking like a
seats.
crate. Like, who puts a crate on the counter?
Or so things like seats or the bouncers.
Yeah,
You know,
okay.
I often see those bouncers.
Yeah.
Especially when they're
I
getting big
can
enough
see that.
to like rock.
It's probably
and they get
inching
that.
a little bit.
Yes.
Time.
And again, all baby products come with a manual.
What do we do with that?
We should read it.
Oh.
Not just a coaster. Okay.
Oh, yeah, man.
Read those manuals. And then while we're talking just like babies being on a countertop in the kitchen, please do not baby wear and cook with your baby.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
What if
have
it's on the
seen-
backside?
I do not want the baby to be between you and a hot surface.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I would prefer you not baby wear at all, but please do not put your baby between you and a hot surface.
They like bacon. They like bacon fat.
They like to taste bacon. They
Not
don't
feel
like
it.
to be bacon.
Yes. For sure.
For sure.
That was a little gross. Sorry.
It's who we are.
But these are things that not everybody thinks of.
Yeah.
You know?
Correct.
And these are just like little modifications to your life that you can make to make your baby safer in the long run.
Did you guys, when you were younger, have that baby that was sort of on the topic, not on the topic, but it was called like baby tumble surprise or something? Did your girls have one? So
It sounds familiar, but I don't know what that is.
Big, heavy-headed baby. And it had a foam body. Everything else is foam and like maybe little plastic hands and feet. But when you put it like sitting straight up, it goes, blub, blub, it flips over. And so that's what I imagine all the time. Like that's when I learned that babies will go because they have these big, fat, heavy noggins. So like that's what I'm imagining in the most non-horrific way is a baby tumbling, my baby tumbling, tumble surprise, tumbling off the counter.
And yes.
Those
Babies
little heavy
have
heads.
big noggins and teeny tiny necks. And so it is hard. And this episode does cover a lot of really hard to swallow and hard to consider material. But these are all things that as a
happen.
parent, you need to be aware of, because being in pediatrics for most of my career, I can't tell you how many one of these injuries I've actually seen. You know, these are not just theoreticals. These are things that can and do happen.
Yes, it's not like I'm never going to do that with my baby. I'm never going to, just
Never say never.
never say never.
Exactly.
You
Never
just
say
don't
never.
know, and you can't judge
You
others.
can't see the future.
You haven't
yeah.
been through it. And
Yeah.
Right.
And we're not here to judge. We're not here to judge
Yeah.
you and make you think that you're bad parents for any reason. We just want you to be armed with
the knowledge.
evidence-based
Yes.
knowledge.
Absolutely.
Evidence-based knowledge.
I did not get into injury prevention because I thought that parents needed judgment.
No.
Right.
I got into this because I have a passion for children's safety because they don't get to make safety decisions themselves. And empowering parents to feel confident in their
Yes.
safety decisions.
I might judge a little bit on names, but I'm never going to judge on education. Like, if you need me to inform you of something, I'm here to do that. Like, that's...
Always open for questions.
I love getting questions.
I do too.
I mean, like I know we said at the very beginning, but education is probably the most important thing that we
It
do
is. That's why we're here.
as nurses.
100%.
And I love teaching and just giving people, information that we've learned over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're not coming from a place that we know everything.
Oh, no.
Because
There's always learning.
there is always learning.
I learned today that you should read your manuals.
Yes. I did my job.
I learned that you don't go to the fire station for your car seat.
Yes.
Lots of little tidbits in
There's
there.
that.
Yes.
Well,
So, yeah. Well, I really appreciate
yes, we appreciate you being with us.
Thank you guys for having me.
And of course, for our listeners, viewers, please, if you have any questions about anything, I'm sure Karrie would like to come back for an episode.
I mean, I love
Okay.
you girls so much, so I'll come back whenever you want.
Yay! Okay, so but if you
Yay.
have any additional questions, you want us to cover another topic, anything else, please reach out to us. Questions, anything, comments, concerns, like, subscribe, and follow.
Smash
Yes.
that button.
Smash that
it.
button.
Smash it.
Smash
Give us
it.
a follow. Give us a like.
Thanks
Ask
for
us
joining
questions.
us.
Let us know that you're out there, Bueller.
Bueller?
Bueller.
Moms
see it.
nowadays may not even get that
That's
reference.
true.
I know it. I'm sorry. Look, Google it.
That just hurt my feelings.
Beuhler.
Bueller.
All right. Thanks for sticking
Thank
with
you.
us.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for listening today. The Rattled Nurses podcast is not intended to provide medical advice. It is not endorsed by our employer, and we are not speaking on behalf of our employer. Our commentary and stories are our own.
Also, on a serious note, we want you to know that if you are feeling blue or depressed, it is okay. You're not alone, and there is always someone to reach out to. You can call the National Maternal Mental Health Hotline at 1-833-TLC-MAMA or text the crisis line, text HOME, HOME, to 741-741. Remember, you're doing a great job. Now go warm up your coffee.